was very formal. Welcome. It's 6 o'clock, so I want to call to order the meeting of the Londonderry Master Plan Steering Committee for February 20th, 2025 at 6 p.m. You can all rise, and Jake will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Before we get into kind of our agenda for this evening, I do hear that we do have an able-bodied volunteer that would like to take on the role of secretary.
Drum roll, please.
Yeah.
So
You should entertain a motion, and
I would like to entertain a motion to appoint Lynn Wiles as secretary.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I'll abstain.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Were there threats made?
Actually, Lynn volunteered.
So Lynn, I appreciate that
Not a
so
problem.
much.
Not a problem.
And just another administrative note, we do have the position open, and it's available to apply through March 7th.
Correct.
And then the planning board will, will look at those candidates and then make the appointment from there. So, this evening we'll have, public comment just incorporated throughout, definitely the session as appropriate. But it is a working session, and I really would just kind of want to stop talking and hand it over to Sylvia to guide us.
Can I, just before we start on that, just one comment. Do we need to approve our January 16th minutes?
Yes, we do, and thank you,
I
Mr.
will,
Secretary.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of January 16th, 2025.
Motion by Jake and second by Martha. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you.
All right.
Sylvia.
Sorry. All right, so tonight is a work session, and I've created this PowerPoint to get us through, and we have several things we're going to be working on. We're going to work on our vision. We're going to look at demographics throughout, regional challenges, and housing. I don't know if we'll get all the way through housing. If we need to divide this up into 2 sessions, that's okay. And because there's many folks here, instead of having people voice their ideas, that's why you've been given these. And I'm a very color-coded person, so you'll get new cards for each different session we're working on. And so we're going to start with a vision. And so and if you have any questions, if you have thoughts, of course, let's talk about it. And so the idea is I'm going to be, and Kelly will help with this, I'm sure. We're going to hand out these cards, and I've handed them out also to Art and John. And so I'll guide you as we go along, and then we'll collect them. And I'll read them, not every single one, but I'll read the ideas. And then in the next section or session of this meeting, in like a month, okay, then I'll have a summary of everyone's feedback. All right. It's slightly clearer than mud, hopefully, but you'll figure it out as we go. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about, the last master plan was created in 2013. And there's been a lot of changes. For example, this particular map of Londonderry shows the differences in growth between 2013, and then I think in red you can see what's popped up underneath. But there are many changes. So growth in the Manchester Airport area, there's changes in housing costs and availability, population shifts, projects. The list could go on and on. And I don't want to cover every topic we can think of, but just to give you some general ideas. So here, Londonderry's growth in and around just the Manchester airport since 2013. And I've mixed up my words here, but this is a 2013 aerial. And if you look at those red squares, what happens to 2023, how there's been a lot of development. And if we all drove around there now, we'd see there's even more. This just happens to be that aerial. So that's one thing that's changed. For example, we heard from Zach last meeting that just the median house price has changed dramatically. The red line, vertical line, is 2013, and you can see the price of homes has basically tripled since then. But when we look at median household income, it certainly has not tripled, and you can see the figures there. So general changes in the last 12 years. One thing that's interesting, households with someone less than 18 years old is getting smaller and smaller, while people with households of someone 65 and older is getting larger. So every single community is aging, but you can see the differences there. So something that's a large picture. Again, population trends. This shows again people getting older, and that percentage of the population is increasing, and vice versa for people who are younger. People living with disabilities, for example, they've just about doubled in the last 10 years. And then there's a ton of big projects that have happened. Just happens to be one that we've all been driving across over the years and planning for probably 40 years, and that's Exit 4A. So, brainstorm number one, and everybody's got a pen. You've all confirmed it. You have your little flashcards. So, what has changed for you in the last 10 to 12 years as a volunteer board member in your neighborhood, where you shop or get services as part of your commute? So I'm going to give everybody a couple of minutes to write that down. And you're a Londonderry resident.
So are we addressing all 4 items, or?
You're not?
No.
Never
Used to
mind.
be.
So I have a question.
Yes.
If I wasn't here 10 years ago, how do I answer this question?
So what has changed for you since, I thought there would be someone. What has changed for you since you've moved here?
Everything.
Oh, you mean changed it within Londonderry since I've moved here?
Yeah. For you, whether you can wear your volunteer hat as a selectman, or you can,
Yep.
town, town council. So what, and I want you to go with your gut. So what has changed? Just write down your first thoughts.
Nothing.
In your neighborhood, where you shop, as part of your commute.
For each one of those, or? Those
Yeah,
are for
yeah,
each
it'd be great if you could do that. And if you could, at the top of your card, write a number 1, so I know this is for exercise number 1. And then when you're ready, put it on the top of your little, whatever that you call that. Dais. Wow. And we'll go around and collect that. Whatever you like. Or you can turn it over. All right, is anyone, all right. We see Jake's on a roll.
Jake's taking a while, so.
Jake, what's the answer to B?
All right, you all know,
changed a couple
you all know what you've written. So before I collect them, I'd love it if you just, what was the top thing that has changed? If you could just go around, and John, why don't you start?
Well, I commented on the Kings neighborhood, because we were just talking about this the other day. There are almost no children and young people in the Kings anymore.
Bob?
You know, I moved here in 21 from Atkinson, where I was for 9-10 years before that, so, you know, nothing much has changed. I mean, the subdivision I live in's been completed. There's tons of kids on our block, young kids.
All right, Sean?
Biggest things are my level of involvement, and water is coming down where I live, so it's not there yet, but the fact that we're getting municipal water. I think is
Water
a big-
service.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you meant a lot of rain, just cloud.
No,
over
no,
your-
no.
Pouring out at his house.
Just mine.
Just is pouring out.
on top of the house.
Jake, how about
Absolutely
you?
pouring. I would, for the as part of your commute side of things, the ability to get around town has probably, the time it takes has probably doubled in the
Okay,
past 10 or 12
yeah,
years.
I can appreciate that.
Yep.
Yeah. Jeff?
Yeah, so me, I've transitioned to working remotely, which has allowed me to volunteer more of my time within the community, as well as shop locally, breakfast and lunches as appropriate.
Okay. Lynn?
So for me, the biggest thing is joining the ranks of the retired folks, so I don't commute to Massachusetts anymore.
Okay.
That sounds incredible, I'm not gonna lie.
Joining the ranks of the fixed income folks now.
Marge?
I too work from home. There's days I never drive my car, and I primarily shop online.
Thank you for that.
Huh,
That
I
is
didn't
a
even
big
think about that.
change.
What a good point.
I'm sure that during the last master plan update, nobody was working from home, or it was rare. Now I have 3 board members, and shopping online has just, right?
Something maybe even 5 years ago, I never would have thought.
Yeah.
Right, right. I've got Amazon coming to, it feels like Christmas every day.
I know, sometimes I'm embarrassed that
I'm
every week the guy
completely
comes.
embarrassed, yeah.
Yeah.
I had to get another recyclable bin for all my boxes.
Oh, wow, there you go.
It's so convenient, though. It's
Martha.
not like you're necessarily buying more, you're just having to go out less.
Exactly.
Martha?
I have a lot of the same things that people have mentioned. I'm also retired now, so I'm not commuting. Where I have a local commute, I work right here in town. And I would notice that traffic has increased a lot since I first came here. We used to have just one grocery store in town, Shaw's, and now we have at least 3 that we can choose from.
Okay. Nice.
And water contamination, my well's contaminated and lots of others are, so that's a concern of mine, which was never used to be.
Right, right. I can appreciate that too. Would Art or John, you like to come to the mic and share what you have? And you might as well just stay right there.
Name is Art Rugg, live at 11 Pine Hollow Drive, been in Londonderry for 41 years, and probably the biggest change is probably the loss of folksiness that the town used to have and the collegiality on how people treated each other. That, I think, has changed tremendously, and 102, I can remember, you probably remember some of this stuff too, but on 102 was, I think Shaw's had just gone in, and then there was Gale's Tractor Barn, where you could buy your lawn mowing utensils and so forth, and tractors and.
So you're back to when you first came into town.
Right.
Yes, but in the last, I'd say 10 years, in my commuting experience, is that Boston Express has many more buses, and the buses are filled.
Yeah.
So, It's just, I mean, there's more people, and I think people are doing more things now, you know, and getting around more, so. That is my contribution. And back when I was first on the planning board or a selectman, we had as many plans, you know, and we met every Wednesday night, so.
We will not be going back to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. First question is, 10 years ago, I didn't volunteer at all. And today, for my wife, I'm volunteering too much. Second, in terms of the neighborhood, on the street I live in, I think the houses have turned over, about half the houses have turned over in the last 10 years. Looks like everybody else, more shopping online. And I haven't commuted in 13 years, so wasn't commuting at the last master plan, I'm not commuting now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now you have the next set of cards you've gone. So this was your icebreaker. This was just to get you the juices going and thinking about what the differences in the last 10 years. All right. Let's see what I have in store. So I think it's important to know what, because there was a group of people as dedicated as you all are, 12 years ago that created this vision statement. Londonderry is a close-knit, vibrant community set in a landscape of protected forests and farms that provides its residents, families, and businesses with efficient services, inviting public spaces, a top-tier school system, and diversity options for housing, recreation, and transportation. These qualities attract knowledge-oriented businesses drawn to Londonderry's educated workforce, access to commercial transport, and superior quality of life. So, what aspect of the vision, of that vision, still rings true to you? So this is, what color card is everyone should be doing? Purple. Thank you. Please write 2 at the top of that one. Did you guys get any purples yet? Are there any left there?
Here, Arthur.
No, here's a whole stack right here.
Yeah. So please write a 2, and first let's tackle what aspects still ring true for you. Give you a couple minutes on that. And then, of course, what aspects of that vision no longer work for Londonderry, in your opinion? And when you're done, put them on your dais again, so we know you're all done. That's fine. Not a word I say every day. Dais.
think it's behind the computer screen.
Yeah, I think it's behind here.
In that, yeah. Tucked, is it tucked
All
right in
right.
there?
Yeah,
Everybody
it might-
wrapping up?
Should be there.
Everybody wrapping up? All right. Let's go around again and everybody share what, before I go and collect them. So John, what worked? Let's start with everyone, what still rings true as far as this vision?
I think, before I lost my card, it was still many diverse transportation options.
Okay.
Town.
Bob,
What works?
what works?
I would agree with John and probably also an educated workforce
Educated workforce?
and what John said.
All right. Sean?
It's a vibrant community, has an educated workforce, access to commercial transportation, and superior quality of life.
Okay. Jake?
I think the things that still ring very true are, a community that has protected forests and farms and efficient services.
Okay. Jeff?
Yes, so I wrote down efficient services, knowledge-oriented business drawn to Londonderry's educated workforce. I did indicate kind of a top-tier school system, and then like others, a vibrant community.
Len?
I'll just, excuse me, I'll just echo, I think we still have a superior quality of life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Marge?
I think we benefit from our transportation, in particular our airport proximity, and protecting our forests, I think.
Nice.
Good job.
Nice. Martha?
I said, I still felt it was a vibrant community with efficient services, and quality of life was good.
Art?
I think we're still a vibrant community. We have a good group of volunteers who still come out. I know some towns similar to our size.
John and Art, do you guys want to, sorry, do you,
Oh, Jeff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just sit there.
You two
Just
should
sit there.
just
take
sit there.
those two
Stay, come on
seats.
up, John.
I tried.
I know.
Well, I'll sit here. As you get older, it's good to move around more. So, I think we still have a good, vibrant community because there are many people that volunteer, that are interested, and that go out and do things for the community. I think one of the good things, we still have open space, and we still try to maintain the rural aspects, because we have 4 working orchards still, and 2 of them are, do commercial work, and the townspeople are very supportive of it. I think as far as, we still have, I think, good options for housing, because we've always, I know, going back at least to 97 master plan, then we did talk about diversity of housing, and that has been, and I think before that, I even think in 1984, the master plan had.
yeah, we're just going back to 2012.
You know,
2012,
you
just,
have to pardon me, I'm old, I have good knowledge of town history
I
and
know.
everything, if you need it, but I won't say any more about that, but I think at least we have been maintaining the quality of life, I think, as Lynn has mentioned, and it attracts people to the community, and that's a double-edged sword, so.
John, what works in this vision?
Answer the question slightly different. I think everything holds true with 2 exceptions.
We're not on that part yet.
I know, like, then I have to go through all one time. Okay.
I mean,
think, let's see, I
You
think,
weren't there.
Do your favorite.
we have efficient services, I think we have open space, I think we have diverse options for housing and recreation, and that's basically.
All right, let's do the same process. What no longer works, or doesn't quite ring true for this vision for 2025? John?
I think I'm gonna end up disagreeing with some of the things that folks had as what works. In that, the first thing I wrote down was close-knit community. I think there are a couple things that have happened. One is some of the political divisions have really bubbled up, I think, in our town as well as nationally. But beyond that, some of the things we've talked about, for example, we shop at Amazon and we work out of our homes and stuff, I think contributes to isolation and not being involved as much perhaps with our friends and neighbors, with the exception perhaps of volunteer groups like this.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you look at everybody as a whole, I think that that's a big change.
Bob, that, very thoughtful. Bob?
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with the negatives because when I read this paragraph, Londonderry doesn't come to mind, frankly. I mean, I love London. I live here. I built a house here, but I wouldn't think of Londonderry when I would read that. I think we're actually slowly eating away at those open lands and orchards. We're building multi-story apartment buildings and large developments, and I think that's, you know, so that's
Well, just,
creeping.
just to be clear, there's no development happening on the protected land.
No, I understand, but everything else that's around it that gave that quality to the town, I think is, you know, slowly, it's privately owned. So, I wasn't implying that protected lands are. And I think that, you know, our schools, the results of our schools aren't as good as they used to be. I mean, everybody knows that and can read that, so that's kind of problematic. I think the housing thing, we have some apartments more than we used to, and townhouses, and so on, but I think, you know, I'm not sure that housing is that diverse and that affordable. You know, I think recreation opportunities for all age groups in a town our size are subpar, especially as we grow. So that's, you know, that's how I feel about it, honestly. So.
Okay, appreciate it. Sean?
So I think John worded it absolutely perfectly about the close-knit, so you can just ditto on everything he said. I don't think we provide efficient services. I honestly think we provide excellent services and recreation in this town. As far as housing options, though, I agree with Bob. I think there's 3 tracks in this town. There's 55 plus, there's big apartment buildings, and there's expensive single families. And I think it's expensive, and there's about those 3 options, so I don't know there's a lot of housing options. Knowledge-oriented businesses, I don't think there's as much white-collar work as could be here. I think a lot of people work outside of Londonderry, and I think we need to do more to draw some of that more, because I don't know how many people work within town that live in town.
Be an interesting statistic to get.
Yeah.
It'd be a very interesting statistic to get.
Jake?
You know, I think when I look at this 2013 vision, I don't think that Londonderry had a diverse options for housing. I do think today Londonderry has much more diverse options of housing. Diverse and affordable are 2 totally different things. But, you know, when you look at 2013, there was no McGregor cuts, no Cross Farms, no Wallace Farms, no Woodmont was in Orchard still.
Right.
So I would say housing has become, I don't even know that necessarily diverse is the right word, there's just more of it. You know, I think there is some diversity there in the fact that, you know, 13 years ago, we really did not have, you either lived in a house or you lived in a house. You know, obviously there's a handful of apartment-like communities that were in Londonderry 13 years ago, or condos, but I think that has grown. So I would say in 2013, we did not have all that diverse of a housing options.
Jeff?
Yeah, I just want to echo what Sean and John mentioned about the close-knit factor. I didn't mention, you know, previous that we have a vibrant community, but I don't think it's close-knit, and I think a lot of that has to do with the, you know, with social media and such like that. So, and there's really not like a community gathering space that, you know, within town or something that kind of like would, you know, kind of bring the community together to, you know, have the debates that sometimes happens on social media in a nice, controlled environment.
Mr. Chair, can I add to that real quick?
No.
Okay.
Go
Sounds
ahead.
good.
No, you can't.
I I would have to echo a little bit of the close-knit community. I think it's I mean, obviously, and he pointed to it as culturally, things have changed tremendously, especially, post-2020. I think the core of Londonderry, the people who have grown up in Londonderry, been in Londonderry for 30+ years, I still feel like that close-knit community inside of those people is there, but it has slowly started to dissipate. And honestly, I would attribute a lot of that to the reduction in children in town. I mean, what brings a community together? Children, sports. People aren't having as many kids, specifically and particularly in Londonderry.
Right.
That plays a huge role in how close knit of a community you have. I mean, everybody I knew came from playing on a ball field.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Lynn?
So I'm losing my voice a little bit, I apologize for that. But I think, excuse me, I think a top-tier school system is a cornerstone, was a cornerstone of this community, and I'm a little fearful on where it's going at this point in time. I just see an erosion of support of the residents of the town, and I'd like to see it get back to where it was when we moved here and our kids went through the school system.
Yep.
Marge?
I agree that we no longer are a close-knit community, which makes me sad, but I also am concerned about the school ratings have declined since in the last 10, 15 years.
Okay. Martha?
Well, being the last one, or almost last, excuse me, guys, I have a lot of the same things, that I don't think we're a close-knit community anymore. I think the landscape has significantly changed in town. We've lost a lot of public spaces, and the schools is also something that was on my list, that I think the schools, I think they're good, but they're not what they were.
Art and John?
Well, I agree also, because I was going to leave the close-knit out. It's, Londonderry's become very political, it's more city-like. I think it's more of an urbanized population, and that's what has changed things. And the last 10 years has been, to me, a lot of change. Londonderry is not the Londonderry that it used to be. We've kind of matured as a community. When you mature, you kind of reach a peak, and I think our peak was probably 10, 15 years ago. And I think now we're definitely slipping. We're not as sharp as they used to be. The schools are not top-rated like they used to be. And I think the mentioning of the kids in town, we used to have at least 25% of the population. I think a few years there were close to 30% were of school age. And now we're becoming more predominantly older, so we're becoming an age community. And I think the people that have moved in, I think there's a change, been a culture change, and we've become very, very political, which I think is a detriment to Londonderry.
John?
How it used to be.
Well, I think I agree with one of the comments about housing. I think the housing is still diverse, okay, but it's not affordable. There's no starter home concept left in Londonderry, and we need that concept in order to bring in young people. So I think that I think it was diverse relative to the community that was here then, and I think it's not maybe quite as diverse, but I think the real issue is price, attracting people. The other thing that's changed dramatically, well, I shouldn't say dramatically, the school system has deteriorated, okay? But I'm not certain in retrospect, after I've studied the progression of our school system and so on, I'm not so certain it was all that good 10 years ago. We just didn't know it as much as we know now. So, but I do feel that we've slipped in the last 10 years, but I'm not certain it was first rate 10 years ago anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sylvia, really quick,
Yeah.
just to kind of, I think Londonderry's also, like everybody else, every other community is, and this probably goes with, this definitely aligns with the close-knit, we're struggling with residents that have an online persona and a in-person persona. And I say that because, being in social media and such, I read what folks say. And then I'm like, wow. And then I have the conversation with that same person and I'm just like, wow, okay. We rely as a society too much on electronic communication. We don't have kind of that ability to come in and have us, those civil discourses and agreements to kind of bring us together to get us to a close-knit community. And from the school standpoint, having children in the school system currently, I'm incredibly. They provide the support that's being provided and such. And yes, I wish the community would definitely support in various different aspects. But from there, my children and others are having a good experience. But I also want to definitely acknowledge what's the rankings and such, and if those are the indicators, then yeah, we absolutely do need to be better. And Jake, you had something?
I wanted to ask a question real quick. Marge might know. In the past 10 or 12 years, from a conservation standpoint, what are some areas of land that the town has purchased?
Lithia Springs was a big one.
Yep.
Trying to
That was when I was thinking real quick, that was the only one that really like popped right to my head. I know there's been more.
Oh, yeah, well, Max, we
Yeah.
bought part of Max. We didn't really, we protected Merrill's, we didn't really buy it. And several of the properties that we protected have been just easements and not outright purchases.
An easement similar to what's on the rest of Max, right?
Yeah, where it still belongs to them, but it, essentially, we took away the building rights.
Correct. And I think what I'm getting at, just because I did hear it twice throughout the board, I understand what the board members are saying, but I think it's being explained wrong. Martha had mentioned a lack of, I forget how she put it, public land. She said, public land is going away. I would disagree. I would say we have more public land now than we did 15 years ago. But privately owned open space has certainly gone away.
Right, and that, Mr. Chair, and that's what I
You know what I
mentioned,
mean?
and
Yeah.
I think the other thing to keep in mind is that perception is everything, and the perception in town is that nobody's saying protected lands, Kelly, is that it's going away, and it's going away really fast.
Correct. And,
Thank
and
you.
I don't
So perception's
yeah,
everything.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just looking for that clarification of, or more of an understanding to the board. I don't disagree. Land is going away in Londonderry. I don't disagree at all. But public land in Londonderry, land that you and I can go walk on tomorrow, is more than it has ever been. So I just wanted to make sure there was a clarification between the two. While I do agree, land as a whole in Londonderry is going away through, private owners' rights to do what they wish with it. The
Well,
other, yeah,
Just to your point, you would not believe how many people have never heard of Musquash.
yeah, it's crazy.
1,000 acres of conservation trails used constantly.
The must what?
It was,
Yeah,
it was our saving grace during COVID,
yeah,
and people still have never heard of it.
Yeah.
How can you not hear of
correct.
Musquash?
So I really wanted to stress that I totally agree. Land in Londonderry is going away, but public land in Londonderry has never been more available. And to the school district, I feel as though the school district has kind of turned a page in working their way back up to, the level of service I had. And, I graduated in 2010. I remember there being a banner in the hallway that said we were top 8 in the state of New Hampshire or something. I think Londonderry School District has turned a very crucial page in the progress of the school district, and I think they're making their way back up.
All right, I'm going to bring everybody back.
Reel me in, Sylvia.
So related to
Sorry.
the vision is in 2013, there was also guiding principles. Stay forever green, promote unique activity centers, emphasize housing choice and diversity, increase transportation choice and walkability, enhance the municipal advantage, and excel in education and town services. So, on the second purple card you have, what aspects of those guiding principles ring true and what no longer work?
Can I ask clarification on what enhance the municipal advantage equals?
That's a good question, and
She doesn't know.
I don't. Do you?
Well, at least I'm not the only one.
I guess when I look at that, if it helps, when I look at that, I see like municipal services. For instance, I think Bedford doesn't even have trash collection.
I
It's-
think
You know what I
that's
mean?
right.
Bedford is like
Okay.
this
Yeah.
$1 million community, and they don't
Without-
have trash pickup.
Yes. Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep, that
Yeah.
helps.
Another purple
Oh,
card.
yes. Does anybody else need one more purple?
What number are we calling this? 2B
2B.
or not 2?
Do you want me to speak to that municipal thing?
Yeah.
I think they all do.
So just, I pulled up the 2013 plan for your question, John. So it states that for enhance the municipal advantage, promote a healthy and sustainable business environment by investing actively in infrastructure, providing favorable incentives, and building a community that is attractive to employers and their workers. Continue to promote Londonderry and build a competitive advantage to attract knowledge-based businesses to the area. Investment and recruitment initiatives should realize triple bottom line benefits for town residents by seeking to improve the tax base, promote economic vitality for local shops and businesses, and increase access to employment opportunities in town.
Sylvia, just a note, when we get to the chapter drafts, let's succinct that language.
Yeah,
Yes.
It should be done in 8 words.
All right, and like the other time, when you're done, just put them right up on your dais. Oh my God. That word. Day.
Sylvia, I'm not certain what you mean by still ring true. Does that mean, as of today, we're following those principles, or are they still good principles going forward?
Still good principles going forward. Thank you. Now, and this is just sort of moving us into, of course, creating a new vision and creating new guiding principles. But I think it's important to look at what people thought 12 years ago. And just so you know, we've used 45 minutes, and we're about a third, maybe, away into tonight's agenda, so.
So you're saying if we want to get out
Sounds
of
like
here
the
early, be
math
more
isn't
succinct.
mathing.
Been a long day.
All set, John?
Yeah.
All right, why don't we start with Marge this time? Yeah.
Okay. I think they all are things that we heard from people on the survey of things they still want to see in town. And it makes me sad to think that 13 years ago, we didn't come through on any of these, or some of them, or certainly not in a way that would have been nice.
Lynn?
So I think what works well, our town services, I think our town services are fantastic. DPW, fire department, police department, town hall. Transportation choices, I've been using the bus up at exit 5 to go into Logan. Wonderful, wonderful. What isn't working, I don't think we ever properly addressed walkability in this community. We talk about it, but we never do anything about it. And then promoting unique activity centers. I'm not sure I'm aware of any unique activity centers that get any level of promotion at this point.
There aren't any.
Jeff?
I concur with Lynn. So that's it. We're only a third of the way in, gotta get things rolling. Go ahead,
All
Jim.
right, Jay?
I could echo that. I would say the municipal advantage, based off of what Kelly has said, is certainly been working. 13 years ago, Shaw's was empty. Whippersnappers was the only thing in the Whippersnappers Plaza. There was no such thing as Woodmont. Where Janie's is, that was 3 or 4 open places. Now you can't find an area to rent for commerce. So I would say, never mind Pettingill and everything else. I would say the municipal advantage is probably the biggest one here.
So I took the instructions as different. I think you said which guiding principles still work going forward, as in within a new master plan, and which guiding principles no longer would belong
Yes.
in a master plan. So
That's okay.
I'm just setting context. So I think what works for this is emphasize housing choice and diversity. Because of what I outlined, I think we don't have enough diversity in different kinds. And then enhance the municipal advantage. I think what Kelly read out, I think that's still a mission we need to keep carrying out through this town. I think it was worded well. The things, we're reading out both. The things that I think don't, I think stay forever green, just the phrasing of it. I think there's aspects of that we could keep, but I just don't, the phrasing of it, I think, sounds dated in what we're trying to do and achieve for this community through the survey. I think promote unique activity centers. I think we just don't, I didn't see a lot of recreational stuff in the survey too as well. I don't know, trying to make centers in town might be a heavy lift. Increase transportation and walkability. It's really hard in a community of 42 square miles to get us to be able to walk all throughout it. I do think our transportation choices are pretty optional here, or pretty optimal here with the bus service down to Boston, with our airport here. I think we could use a little help on the roads. And excel in education and town services. Like I said before, I think we have excellent town services, so I don't know that that's a driving need going forward.
Okay. Bob?
I'll do both. I mean, I took it literal to what you asked, so I think what rings true, I would say, is housing choice and diversity, regardless of cost. You gotta divorce that out. Transportation, vehicular or not, otherwise. Enhanced municipal advantage, yep, I think, it still rings true. Town services, I think we get a pretty good grade on that, but I don't think really rings true to me based on that anymore. Is a stay forever green. I think that's tied to the fact that we're eating up privately owned, to be clear, privately owned land. It was viewed as open land, whether it was a farm or whatever it was, to build stuff on it. Walkability, we don't have walkability. I live in a new subdivision that was finally finished last year. There's 160 some homes, and there's not a sidewalk. People have to walk in the street, so no sidewalk, right? That's in the community. Education, we talked about that. I don't think really, it's not really that true anymore. We're not terrible, but we're not as well as we used to be. And activity centers, I think, again, I said before, I think for a town our size, we lack recreation choices that are cross-generational as well, not just, recreation facilities.
John?
principles that still ring true, perhaps looking forward a bit, would be emphasize housing diversity for some of the reasons previously stated, but no longer work. I sort of gravitated to the promotion of unique activity centers, and a couple things I looked at specifically. One was the failure in the town to build an auditorium or a congregation place. You know, frankly, I went to the political thing in the school cafeteria the other day, and for a town this size, it's sitting on folding chairs in a cafeteria is kind of ridiculous. Okay, and something pickleball. Not that I'm a pickleball advocate. God knows I don't have the body for that. But you know, pickleball got defeated in this town. So I don't know that people are interested in, and if that works for us anymore. These individual activity centers.
Okay. Real quick, the two of you. John?
The activity centers, I think pickleball is right on the money, things like that. We have to start doing things that match up to the population breakdown in terms of age. The emphasis on housing and group, that's fine. Increased transportation and walkability, we just basically just said, you know, both of those things need a huge improvement. Again, has all to do with the shift in the population. Okay, and the municipal advantage, I think we still have that. And the last one, certainly, the last one I think is okay, but I'd actually break that in half. I think it should be, we need to excel and appreciate in education, but I think I would break it and also then say the same thing basically about town services, because I think they are two significantly different things in how you'd approach them. And I don't know if I said it, but on the first one, the Forever Green, it just needs different words. But I didn't write a lot down.
I think for Forever Green needs, I think there's many meanings to it, but I think in my own estimation, it definitely needs more work. You know, I think we need to look at purchase of more open space for activity. Recreation has always been on the low budget side, especially compared to like, you know, Merrimack and Derry. Definitely we could do better, but it involves money. So that's the big problem there.
All right.
Activity centers were really developed from form-based zoning in this master plan. So that probably was very hard to develop because form-based zoning is not a big favorite in Londonderry.
Hasn't happened. Okay. So, when we think about moving this forward, vision and guiding principles, I wanted to look to see what of our questions of our surveys related to those topics. And I really narrowed it down to a few questions. This was one of them. When considering the future of Londonderry, what would you like the town to be known for? And the top was a great town to raise a family, growing town that maintains its historic its features or something like that. We'll see in a minute. And supportive of all ages and abilities were the top ones, and as well as affordable living. So let's look at it a little bit closer. And then you can also see all the responses compared to those who are 65 and older. And again, those top four, you can see, growing town that maintains its historic New England character. So that was the total one there. So that's one thing that I think we should look at as we create a new vision. Another question, when you're thinking about Londonderry in its present state, what would you want to preserve the most? And overall, a deep appreciation for Londonderry's unique character, strong commitment to community and environmental values, a desire for balanced, thoughtful development that respects the town's history and charm. And so these were the top ones that came out from that open-ended question. Preservation of open space and farmland, connection to nature, cultural and historical heritage, small-town charm, family-friendly environment, community engagement, and balanced growth. And then another question, what qualities or attributes make Londonderry unique? And people cherish the blend of agricultural roots, community spirit, natural beauty, and accessibility. And again, you see the repeats in many of those same themes. Indicate the importance, the level of importance that the town should give to the following town-wide initiatives: low tax rate, historic properties and sites, enhanced school vitality facilities. And so you can see here how that breaks out, the top ones being in the darker blue and then the lighter blue. So in that lighter blue, maintaining activity community space and improving communication infrastructure, developing age-friendly strategic plan so that people can age in place, and invest in town facilities and infrastructure. So with all that, I created a draft vision. So with your next card, what aspects of the draft vision work in your opinion, and what would you revise for the draft vision? So, and there's that. So please put now number 3 on this one. Or this is 2C, I'm sorry. If you put 3, that's fine, but it's 2C.
What are we doing with the second yellow card?
Oh, that was extra, so you can just put it up on the dais and I'll collect it.
So you want us to give our thoughts on this particular statement?
Yep, I used the words from the community feedback. And
That was a question
and so this is where this came from. And I'll go ahead and read it. Londonderry residents have a deep appreciation for Londonderry's unique character, natural beauty, agricultural roots, and have a strong commitment to community and environmental values. They envision a future for residents of all ages and abilities through thoughtful community programs and services, and grows in a way that balances that's too many thoughtfuls, compatible development, and respects the town natural resources, infrastructure, history, natural beauty, and small town charm. I always find it's easier to react from something. Absolutely. And so no way is this is not even close to wet cement. This is just something for you to react to with those different things we just reviewed from the feedback we got from the survey. And then your own thoughts, wearing the hats that you wear as a volunteer. So what works, and what would you revise? What would you add to this draft vision statement, or rewrite completely? But mind you, we're now an hour into it.
Whoever's ready, just go.
All right, I'll go. So I think that first sentence, it's a little run-on a little bit, and I think if we chopped off the environmental values at the end, that's the least clear part of it. I think that means a lot of different things to a lot of people, and I think the sentence is more concise without it. The only other thing that I had is on the survey, 60+% put a low tax rate. I think if we put something in as responsible spending or something in there, because everything else we hit on the survey, but that's one aspect in there that had the highest number, and it's not within our vision.
I think that's brilliant. Yeah. Bob, you're up, you're ready.
So I really like the statement. I mean, we can all sit here and pick it to pieces, but I mean, we'd have to do that probably in an email, not like this. I liked it a lot. The only thing I wasn't sure about was the small town piece. I don't think we're a small town by New Hampshire standards. We're actually one of the bigger towns that work across the state, as you know, and we're not a small town. So I think that's not realistic, and I'm not sure that we have a small town charm. I'm just being honest about it.
Well, small town charm is mentioned over and over and over.
Oh, I know.
It's all depends what you compare yourself. You compare yourself to Manchester or Boston, or a Portland, you know, I just think it all depends what you compare yourself to.
That's
because
true.
You have people who have moved here from much bigger cities. You said, where did you move from?
Atkinson, 7,800 people.
So, much smaller.
So, listen, I'm just giving my honest opinion. I'm not trying to litigate it. I'm just saying that to me, that doesn't, what I know about Londonderry, built a house here in 2020, it doesn't kind of ring to me. But, and the environmental thing that Sean mentioned, I have to agree, it's kind of a very nebulous statement that could mean a lot of things to a lot of people.
All right, who else is ready?
Right here.
John?
I sort of gravitated to the small town thing, but not with the idea of eliminating it, but maybe modifying it by adding something along the lines of, with all the, small town charm with all of the modern day conveniences. You can, basically in this town, we can, access anything that I can think of, except maybe a great restaurant. But we have everything else.
Okay, I like it. Who's ready? Lynn?
So when I moved here in 1981 from Detroit, I moved to New Hampshire. I didn't move to Londonderry, I moved to New Hampshire.
Sure.
I think New Hampshire is a very special state. It has its own unique set of characteristics. And I think people move to New Hampshire to be in New Hampshire. Londonderry might be the town they chose to live in, which is my situation. So I would like to see somehow we tie into our town and our unique situation as well as to how it ties into New Hampshire's unique situation. It's a wonderful state to live in. I like that.
So I would probably just add something along the lines of a sentence that kind of reflects what others have said of, Londonderry's a responsible, responsible stewards of community resources, and to ensure that we provide excellent services, best-in-class educational opportunities, and the environment for economic growth, or something along those lines. But from that statement, what I'm trying to kind of get at is we're asking, in a society, you ask a lot, from taxes and others, and, elected officials need to be responsible stewards of those resources. And I really think that it's important to kind of probably say that, with the guiding principle of being responsible, but definitely getting to the point of providing the services that are needed for the population. So I recognize that's a little jumbled, but it's on my card, so Sylvia, you can absolutely translate that.
Okay, Marge?
I felt like the comments from the survey all kind of went towards quality of life. That was the main concern people have, is their quality of life. They, traffic wasn't mentioned in the top 5 things. Things that, if you were talking to somebody on the street, that would be one of the first things they were crabbing about. But they didn't put that on the survey. They were, kind of concentrating on quality of life in general.
Okay, thanks, Marge. Jake, did you go?
I really don't have much more to add from
Okay, great, thank
what
you,
the
bye.
board has said. Yeah.
How many more are there?
Did you have, I'm sorry, I was just trying to be
Oh, no,
flippant.
you're good.
Okay.
I appreciate
You
it.
sure?
I'm positive.
Short.
Trust me, you'd know if I wasn't.
Anything quick, John?
Yeah, somebody mentioned, I think, Lynn mentioned used the words "our town," and I like the ring of using "our town" in this someplace as opposed to Londonderry residents.
Okay, our town. Art, quick.
It's Peterborough. I just think the first sentence is a little too long. There's some very good ideas, and I think this needs to be aspirational also. I think there's a reasonableness to it.
Yes.
But it has to be aspirational. Because we really haven't got, I think, where everyone wants, but there's many ideas, and I think, as Marge said, the quality of life, I think, is foremost in people's minds.
Okay, I very much appreciate that. It's gotten through the pea brain. All right. So, 2025 draft guiding principles. I used, again, the survey results and came up with preserve open space and farmland and support agricultural businesses, embrace small town charm and family-friendly environment, connect to nature and outdoor activities, balance growth, and provide the foundation for affordable housing, commitment to quality schools and education, encourage accessible community engagement and support of all ages, and embrace cultural and historical heritage, which I'm really not sure specifically what that might be. But again, with your, and everybody has your first card up on the dais, the second green card, please tell me what aspects of the draft guiding principles work from what we heard from the community, and what needs to be added, and what needs to be clarified. So, feel free.
Another green card.
We need a
Oh,
second
no, there
green-
it is.
There it is.
There it is. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Can we reference these by numbers so we don't have
Yeah,
to
that's
write out?
exactly what I was
Feel
doing.
free, yes,
Okay.
yes, that would be great, because I will be utilizing the PowerPoint in my
What number are we calling this?
2D.
2D.
2D, okay.
Very nice. Bob, you want to start us off while people are still writing?
I didn't really, it's hard to do this really the way, I mean, it's great that we're doing it, but it's kind of hard because of time. And I kind of liked them all. The only one I really questioned was item number 4, and the word affordable housing. What's affordable for me may not be for the person across from me or behind me. And I think we had a very robust conversation about what affordable housing is or isn't at the last meeting, with those great speakers you had. They're really great.
Yeah,
But I think it's a loaded comment to me because it's hard to quantify. It's no different than somebody bringing up something else in a prior item where it was kind of fuzzy and so. But I thought the rest of it rang really true. And the cultural history of this town, Nutfield, there's a long history here, going back to Reverend McGregor. So I think, there is a history in this place. So that's it for me.
Sean,
So I'm a big believer in 3 main points. I think it helps drive home focus. And I took a look at these and think, what does this embody for the survey? And so I thought, number 2, embrace small town charm and family-friendly environment. Number 4, balance growth and provide the foundation for. I agree completely with Bob. We should change affordable to diverse housing. And then number 7, embrace cultural and historical heritage. I think those 3 sum up all the rest.
all right, so you like 2, 4, and 7?
Yep.
John, you're done.
I would change the word embrace. I think that's a nothing verb through this whole thing. And
What would you change it to?
action verbs like invest in, construct, do, something that constitutes change or improvement.
Preserve is good.
Okay,
Preserve,
preserve is a little bit better. Okay. I
okay.
embraced losing 20 pounds January 1st, that it hasn't happened yet.
You can't just do this.
And
10
then
months.
the cultural heritage on number 7, while it's near and dear to my heart, is a little mushy. And I would probably suggest that that's sort of part of our small town charm. And maybe that should be matched up and combined up as part of that process. You know, the line could perhaps be our small town charm and willingness to invest in some of our cultural or heritage sites in town. I got my 2 cents in as a member of the Heritage and Historic Society.
There you go.
Thank you.
There we go.
I can go.
Oh, Jake,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness. I'd have to agree a lot with what the 3 gentlemen next to me have said here. And a good point, which Bob, you brought up earlier, is I think small town is not necessarily a right word, because there is nothing small about Londonderry. There wasn't anything small about Londonderry in 1980. It abuts a highway. There's nothing small about it, and there really has never been anything small about it. But we do have a very unique cultural and historical heritage. So I think maybe that's, back to your point a little bit earlier, maybe it is, small town is the wrong words, but cultural and historical heritage do ring very, very true.
Jeff?
I like connecting 2 and 7. Not gonna continue to beat the horse about the small town. I think you got that. That was really good feedback shared
Yeah,
by
got
members
it.
here, and I think that actually, to me, clarifies a lot. I really think that the commitment to quality schools and education is important. I'm wondering though if there's more of a lofty, not so much lofty, but less focus on schools, more from a guiding principle of like commitment to quality education opportunities or something along those lines. 7. Yeah, so that's definitely my
Okay.
feedback there.
So I'll pick on number 4. I think it should be split between balanced growth and housing. I think it's 2 different things. And I think it should also be balanced growth, because I think balanced growth has a little bit different meaning to it than balanced growth. The way it's written, it sounds like we're balancing growth with affordable housing, and that's not what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a good
Okay.
point.
I would agree with that.
So
That's a good point.
balanced growth,
And then I think Sean had talked and Bob had talked about, not about affordable housing, but diverse,
Yes.
diverse housing.
Yeah, I think you brought up a pretty good point, Bob. I mean, affordable housing is like the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
Keep chasing it, you're never gonna find
I
it. But
think-
diverse housing is
Right.
a thing.
Right.
Yes.
And I also think instead of using, is it really diverse? Where's that word? What number is it?
4, I just said
4,
sum up.
yeah, 4, I'm sorry. It's really a varied choice or something. I don't think
Yeah.
it's
that's
a
even
much
better.
better way of saying it than
Yeah.
What does
Variety.
diverse housing mean? I don't know what that means to
Yeah.
me. And I'm an architect. I don't know what that means,
wait, what do you want? Not
I'm,
diverse, you
I'm
want
saying
variety?
a variety of choices or options or something like that.
Yeah. Housing
Okay.
choices, that would show.
Housing
up.
choices is
housing
pretty
choices,
straightforward, right?
Okay. See, it is easier to comment on something that is there than develop something. Because you guys are having so many great ideas. I love it.
Yeah, we would still be on slide number 1.
Yes.
Marge,
I too kind of struggle with the small town because I don't think we're a small town. I think we're a rural town.
yeah, I like the whole plan of invest in cultural and historic heritage.
Yeah.
I think
because,
that really was good.
a small town, I feel like it would have a main street, it would have little shops and people hanging out at the barber
Sure.
shop. And
Yeah.
that's what I think of for a small town. And,
Rural's a really good way to put it.
and we'll never be that. And it's because our town center is now Derry. Because
Yeah.
when we were Nutfield, and 93 chopped us in half. Derry got the town part, and we got the rural part. So
Right.
we'll never, ever have that
Yeah.
town.
And that, I guess that's back to what I said, even, in the seventies and eighties, Londonderry was never a small town, but it was a rural town.
Right.
Yeah, very good point.
And then I just, part of me wants to put something about that, to add, in order to do all this, we kind of need the infrastructure to support a well-functioning community. Because this is all feel-good stuff, but there's the underbelly of making this work that involves infrastructure.
Thank you for that reality check. You too.
I think the gentleman that mentioned using action words is right on. And I think, and all these, I don't know if you need 7, but I think the action words need to be put in there. And I think you need to take the ambiguity as much as possible out of these. So try to get to the point where, 80, 90% of the people that read it is going to come to the same conclusion of what it means. And a good example is number 4. Number 4 is when you get down to, creating the foundation for affordable housing. That's all over the lot. Clearly we need to work on balanced growth, and maybe we should actually put some targets on what that means in terms of what we want to maintain, between the commercial, industrial. So this is kind of calling to action at the same time it is as principles. And I think maybe that stretches the concept of principles a bit, but I think there ought to be some clear goals.
I think John's touched on something we haven't talked about, except for Marge, which is if we combine the balanced growth with what Marge was saying, to have an infrastructure to support the community, is that something that I should try to wordsmith, where I'm combining what you're talking about and the balanced growth?
I would say that's part of good growth. Part of balanced growth is ensuring that there's the infrastructure to support that. So,
All
yeah.
right, I know it's,
That don't jeopardize.
it
services.
rings like very familiar thinking about feedback, because it definitely was talked about
Yeah.
by the community. All right, Art, real quick.
Okay, I was looking at mostly number 4 also, trying to, balance, but I think what the more critical thing is the rate of growth. If growth is too fast, that's when people really say, we gotta stop everything, we gotta go back to, turn the clock back. But part of growth, at least holding growth down, is open space purchase. Because nice desirable pieces of property, if the town had purchased them, you can't build houses on them. So, that goes back into the 90s, when the town was really had a very active program of purchasing open space and also development rights for the orchards. And that's why we are where we are now. And I think the good work of the Conservation Commission.
So, sustainable, is that a good word?
But I think we gotta go back
I
and.
don't know.
Sustainable's got a tinge to it too that
Now
can mean a lot of things. It's, as John said, ambiguous language. That would be.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. All right,
It's okay, I don't live here.
Can I make
go ahead.
not exactly how to put this, but one of the things, a guiding principle that I think perhaps we need to say something about is decisions that are supported by planning. We're not a continuously planning organization. And since this master plan we're putting together, we really ought to say something about how we go day by day, week by week, and so on, and planning towards things. Every problem you come to always would have benefited from pre-planning and have some, try to get ahead of the builders, if you will, when it comes to building and how the land's going to be used. But I don't know, it seems to me we need some principle about planning. Process. Otherwise, this thing just sits on the shelf and gathers dust.
Okay, there you go. We don't want to gather dust with our work. Yeah, John?
Just quickie, as you batted around the small town concept, I heard, I think from Jake, the word rural. And I think we have evolved way past rural.
I agree with that. We're not a rural town.
If suburban is the right word, I'm okay with that, or something that shows a bedroom community. It has bad connotations, but in a sense, that's what we are too. But I don't think we're rural anymore.
I agree with you, John, 100%.
I'll disagree with the need to classify Londonderry because I don't think it's rural in the traditional sense. I definitely don't think it's small town. But when you look around at Derry, we're not Derry. We're not Litchfield. We're not Manchester. But we sit between all these different types of towns. But I think we're our own unique thing. And that, I think, goes into what we're embracing our cultural and historical heritage. Londonderry is unique. And we're not a cookie cutter that fits a category. I think we want to preserve those aspects of it. It's part of why I moved here, is for this unique feel.
I think that says it in a nutshell. I don't think we need to classify it. I like what you said earlier, which is invest in the cultural and historic heritage. You do that, whether you in your thought process think you're rural or think you're suburban or think you're urban, because I stop 5 people on the street, they're all going to label it differently. But if you are investing in that cultural and historic heritage and investing in a family-friendly kind of dynamic, that's what you're, I'm going to use that word embrace because I like it. But
Yeah,
So Sylvia, with, because we are kind of approaching time, and I think we have,
yes,
definitely next steps, and probably can continue the remaining parts of this agenda when we convene again. Plus, we'll have a lot of noodling to do. So what would those next steps be?
so we have covered 1/3 of the agenda. What was next was regional context, and then after that, housing. So I know I wanted to have a draft of the chapters by the end of March. Our next meeting would be March, scheduled meeting would be March 20th? And I'm wondering if you all would be willing to have a work session, if Jeff and I could work with Kirsten and figure out a work session.
Before March.
You're saying in the first couple weeks of March?
Yeah,
So we
like
have 2
in,
meetings in
in
March.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that we have another, Jeff, right? That's what we were talking about?
Oh, yeah, yep.
Would you all be willing, or, I mean, that's,
I
That-
believe I'm not available in 2 weeks.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think I am either, because I'm.
Is there a way to extend these a little longer? Because I mean, if we're here on the day, I think it's easier to extend the day than it is to add to the day.
I can keep going right now.
Yeah, we,
Well,
But some of you have had a long day and not prepared to extend it, so
True.
I will,
Could I jump?
you please.
So, obviously, we have 2/3 left to go, but we now have the PowerPoint, and I assume there's additional questions, prompts.
There's, there's
Right,
all
so
kinds of stuff.
Perhaps if we continued it, we could make sure everyone has this information, and you could generate your responses prior to the next meeting, and then we can expedite this a little bit, if you're.
I mean,
Good
the
with
6th of
that.
the LRC.
I'm good
but
with that.
The 13th we could do
There's a
13th.
lot of
Yeah.
demographic information,
We don't
so
have
I
the
kind
LRC,
of
right?
divide this up in, you down.
I'm on the same meeting that he's gonna be at on the 6th. Could we do the 13th?
so yeah, what we're talking about actually is taking this,
Kinda
review, offline, reviewing the remaining, and then probably, from, having the feedback, like we've been trying to do, is you kind of filter it through me, and then I can,
Sure.
or if that's
Yeah.
okay, just because I just don't want, like, Sylvia to get like 500.
I think, if you don't mind, so I think if the consensus is to take the remaining prompts and questions that we have and have the committee address that offline individually, not in a meeting format, and then look to Jeff to kind of just make sure we're on track with that, and then when we reconvene on the 20th, have the dialogue on it,
So
I guess.
Yeah.
just to be crystal clear, instead of sitting here all writing on cards, we're gonna write that out first.
Yes.
That's the only part we're doing offline. We'll still read it and have the discussion, but it helps to just cut out the writing.
That's my suggestion.
Yeah, and I think that's
I'm
great.
open to
Yeah, it's just gonna
Yeah.
expedite.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
So
agree.
when this gets sent to you via email, just know that there's a lot of additional information I've added to the next sections that have to do with demographics, that's also have to do with the survey results. So if you see, for example, let me see if I can so regional context, this information, for example, is, and you can see right at the top, is from the 2013 master plan. So I have a bunch of stuff like that, and that's all from the 2013. Then I get into, well, what were the questions in the survey that relate to regional context? So then I have a bunch of stuff like that. And there's only one small question. Why aren't you going backwards? You're annoying me. Sorry. So there's just a couple here on that. And housing gets much more involved. This gets into a variety of questions we asked. And also, there's this kind of thing are the demographics. And you can see the line again where it's 2013. And, right. And then these are more questions. All of this had to do with the survey. These are 2013 master plan strategies that I didn't put in the ones that Mike and Kelly had identified as complete. I only put in ones that hadn't been considered complete. So those were 2013 strategies. And then you see the exercise. So, and I put together, let's see, these were strategies that 2013. And then I threw together just a few that are example of housing strategies. Okay? So that's a lot of information.
So would it be helpful if I send you an email, Jeff, just saying what kind of the expectation is, and then you can, and I'll obviously include.
Yeah, Kelly, yeah,
the
that's a good
RBC.
idea, because I think you probably grasped that.
Yep.
And, let's try to figure out a way to do this as obviously as efficient as possible, make sure the committee, has the opportunity to, provide it. And then I like the idea of kind of obviously discussing it all and, sharing, kind of what we've done. But it's essentially just, taking what the cards are.
Oh, yeah,
and
I'm fine with
digitizing
that.
them.
The one caveat, so our hope, Jeff and my hope, when we talked about this all yesterday, was to get through this, and then at the next meeting, work on land use. So land use is not part of this particular one. So I think what we'll do is, at the next meeting, you'll have your feedback from this, and then we'll spend the first part of that meeting on this, and then I'll go through land use.
Yeah, let's tighten that up a little. Yeah, I think I like that a lot, but I just wanna, my mind is like, you just threw out, you went through a 74 slide deck.
Yeah, I
My
think
mind is like, whoa.
Well, I think
It was awesome information, but
With
go ahead, Kelly.
your input, as chair, we could kind of narrow down that, land use, presentation, if you will, and what kind of the expectation is.
Yeah, because I definitely don't want to lose the opportunity for this board to provide that feedback. So, yeah, I like that.
Would it be, could I get a question, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I know we quickly toyed about the idea of an additional meeting. Would it be, it feels like we're you're kind of trying to push land use a little further away, and we're gonna end up in the same spot we're in now at the next meeting. Would it be worth us to do this exercise, have a separate meeting that should theoretically be much more condensed, because we've gone through the exercise, we present together, discuss together on that 13th, and then we can still maintain the agenda that you, it sounds like you guys kind of already have planned for the 20th.
So my thought, chime in if I'm off, but my other thought was, Sylvia did a wonderful job with this presentation and outlining the exercises. If we have that in advance for land use,
Yeah,
we can send that out, shortly after we send this out, so that you're not bombarded, and then have kind of that same expectation on the 20th again, so you have it in advance, and you're already reacting before you get here, and then we're having the dialogue, and if that
I can do that.
is,
Yeah, I've started that.
I don't know if that negates the need for another meeting or not, but I'm
I
open to
feel like
whatever.
it would.
Yeah.
I feel like it would, but perhaps set the expectation of a bit longer of a meeting because of the
Absolutely,
range of what we're covering.
Yep.
You know, maybe expect,
2 hours.
it's 7:30 now, expect 8:30 for that, you know?
The only thing is, we have to have enough time to really look at the stuff and respond, because a lot of us are working long hours, 2 jobs or more. We need more than a week to look at the
yeah, I
stuff.
agree.
Like, the agenda came out this afternoon at 3:30. I checked the one, it wasn't there. And it came out at 3:30. So, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
We need
So-
some real time to
Well, you'll
review
get
it.
you'll get this,
What I can commit to is
Pretty
definitely,
quickly.
working with Kelly and Sylvia to set that schedule. I want us to kind of get that schedule set for the board. I'd like to get this information definitely out to the board, but I don't want it to be piecemealed, saying, "Oh, here's a presentation." And,
Yeah.
Like, I really want it organized, because we all are busy and we can all consume it as different stuff. So, but my commitment to this board is to work with Sylvia and Kelly to kind of package it up so it's useful information that is delivered timely.
if it's easier, I can just do it in,
Bob, I will talk about it.
all right, okay.
Yes.
I think the land use thing is critical, because when you look at the results of the survey, it talked about speed of development and what's going on and what the use of land is now and in the future. That is probably a top 2 priority in that survey. When we first met here, whenever that was absolutely a linchpin. And it impacts everything. It impacts development, it impacts, housing, it impacts open lands, it impacts everything. Thank you.
Agreed.
Well, I appreciate everybody's feedback. I think you all are very thoughtful. And I think this was a really great discussion, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sylvia. This is a lot of work you put in, and you and your team and Kelly, awesome to see you here, so thank you.
Oh, Sylvia did all this work, I was
Yeah,
just here.
Yeah, this was a great way to get our ideas and draw them out.
Yeah, it was good.
In a succinct fashion.
Ish.
I just have a little tidbit. I've discovered a YouTube channel called City Beautiful, and it's a professor of municipal planning that has all these short videos on everything we're talking about. It's really interesting information, worth checking out.
What was that called again?
City Beautiful
City
on
Beautiful.
YouTube. I subscribed now.
Well, thank you, Mark. All right. Kelly, Sylvia, anything else? Anything from the committee? All right. Motion to adjourn?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Jake and seconded by Sean. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you all.